Hello, you're watching Bent TV. My name is Erin Kyan, my pronouns are he, him, and we are broadcasting from the lands of the Kulin Nation. Today I am joined by Josh, pronouns he, him, and we're going to talk a little bit about mental health and how people can access mental health resources and how we can just kind of take better care of ourselves mentally. Because goodness knows everything's very hard right now. Hi Josh, thanks for being here.
Hey Erin, thanks for having me.
We're relying on you now to solve all our problems.
Good.
So no pressure.
Excellent.
So what's sort of, when we talk about like good mental health or like good mental well-being, what is that? What does that look like?
It's a good question. I think often we can think about like well-being from a perspective of just like ill health or disease, but World Health Organization and actually like more broadly around the world, we think of health as both like lack of disease or illness as much as possible, but also positive well-being and enjoyment of life and meaning and things like that. And so with mental well-being, it's the same. So I'm a psychologist, I'm a queer psychologist working in Melbourne, and with my clients, I'm not only looking at like maybe what's perhaps going wrong or what might be a problem in someone's life, but also what's going well and what's a strength and how it can kind of like lean on those or improve those a little bit more as well.
Yeah, so sort of like not so much just trying to fix problems as much as like improving life.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's a really good focus, I feel.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, LGBTIQA plus people, we're at a much higher risk of mental health issues. Where should people be looking to find help with that? Like, even if you're not sure if you need it, like what are questions we should be asking ourselves? What are places we can go?
I guess I think about this on a few different levels. Some of it is at a lower and broader level that I would actually encourage kind of like everyone. In queer community, access community and be part of community. Whether that for you means like explicitly queer community or whether that's like your football club or your church or your choir or whatever that might be. That we know positive relationships are some of the things that help look after our health the most. They're also a way that we might have other people being able to notice when something might be going wrong for us. If we're behaving differently or maybe not looking well, or if they're noticing, or actually you've got some bags under your eyes, or you're a bit pale, how you doing?
Oh, you haven't been very happy recently.
Yeah.
Or like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, yeah.
At kind of a level up from that, we should all be thinking about our health and our well-being fairly holistically. And so what I mean by that is like food, so like diet, exercise, sleep as like some big pillars of wellness, keeping those going as well as looking at those if there's something going wrong in them. They're often kind of a marker, perhaps maybe something else is going off, maybe there's been a big life stressor or something like that, as well as perhaps it's therapy, perhaps it's, I don't know, like going to do some activism or hobbies, whatever it might be.
So if people want to find extra support, if people want to find a therapist or a support group or something like that, how do we go about finding them?
Particularly if you want to find a queer affirmative therapist or a place that has really good inclusive practice, especially if it's around, like if you are wanting to seek out someone for help around a queer issue, perhaps you're questioning your gender or you're thinking of coming out to your family or something like that, then you really want someone with good training. Honestly, and just like straight out there, it can be hard finding a great therapist to tick the boxes of affordable, accessible, queer affirmative, and someone who you can kind of click with.
Yeah, because I mean, that's another thing, isn't it? Like you need your therapist to be someone that you can like feel comfortable with just as people. Yeah. Like even outside the other stuff. Yeah.
And so sometimes it can take a couple of goes of trying out a couple of therapists to find one that really works for you well. But in general, I recommend using the APS, so the Australian Psychological Society's website, Find a Psychologist service. Just Google that and you'll find it. And you can sort of search a postcode, a couple of issues, and that'll bring up a number of people.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's appropriate and Australia-wide. The other resource that I sometimes recommend, especially around trans and gender diverse issues, is looking up the AusPATH website, which is the Australian Professional Association of Transgender Health. They actually have health practitioner listings for GPs, psychologists, speech therapists across Australia in different states. You can also just go to other people in community or go to, I don't know, say like Transgender Victoria or Thorne Harbour Health in Victoria, or whatever your local queer association is. Chances are they'll have some recommended therapists.
They'll have a list that's like, yep, here are people we can recommend.
They'll have a list and it's probably a bit vetted and it might not be perfect, but like I think that's generally a really good place to start.
So once you start accessing services, whether that's a therapist or a program of some kind, how do you take care of your own, like how do you advocate for yourself as a client? Because sometimes even if things aren't bad, they can still be improved. And sometimes things are bad and need to be improved. How do we engage with services to help them help us?
I like to talk to clients or I guess like people in community about trying to get the most out of your health practitioner because they're there to help you, they're there to serve you. So sometimes that might be almost like pre-screening them and saying, hey, how trained are you around trans health care? And if they say, oh, well, a bit, but not that much, you can recommend there's a great free online training module for GPs, although you can actually send it to anyone through Northwest Primary Health Network. It's like an hour training, it's free, it's easily accessible on the net. Actually, anyone can do it. And I recommend people just send that to their doctor and say, hey, here's a 1 hour training thing, do this. But that's one way. I would also recommend that or suggest that good therapy requires ongoing conversation between client and therapist of what's working well, what's not working as well, how can we improve our relationship and the work that we're doing.
So we shouldn't be afraid to give some gentle criticism to our healthcare providers, basically.
Good therapists and good doctors love it. And if they're responding with a lot of defensiveness, that might be a sign that it's worthwhile switching or potentially thinking about elsewhere. But yeah, I guess that's a conversation and a negotiation. Yeah.
Awesome.
But at the end of the day, often us as queer people, we're the experts in our own lives, especially around like who knows my sexuality or my gender better than me?
Yeah.
Nobody, actually. And so it's up to me to speak up about what things are important about that and take a little bit of a leap of faith to trust people and try and get something out of them and work with them.
That's awesome. All right. I hope that helps anyone who's watching this. Josh, thank you so much for this. This is really valuable. You've been watching Bent TV. I'm Erin Kyan, and thank you for watching.